And there's more information coming out about the masked executioner known as Jihadi John. Last week, he was unmasked and identified as a Londoner named Mohammed Emwazi. Rise News correspondent Akhtar Khan joins us again with the very latest. Akhtar.
Thank you, Gary. Well, the identity of Jihadi John has been a mystery for many months now. Western intelligence were frantically trying to identify this brutal executioner. And now, for the first time, with no sophisticated voice recognition technology or any effects, we hear an interview recorded of this would-be rapper turned terrorist, Mohammed Emwazi. Mohammed Emwazi, now universally known as the man behind the mask responsible for numerous brutal beheadings.
This British man has to pay the price for your promise, Cameron.
This is Emwazi with his voice menacing and threatening, taunting the West. Compare that to the softly spoken man that he once was. It's a very different person, and a voice that we hear in a newly released recording of Emwazi back in 2009, made by UK charity group Cage, an organisation which helps victims of so-called war on terror.
Sorry, just one thing, Mohammed, one thing I forgot from here reminded me. Our interview after, right at the end, he said, "I want to ask you some serious questions now." I said, "Yes." He goes, "What do you think of the 7/7?" I said, "Man, well, innocent people have died, man. What do you think?" "I think this is extremism." He said, "Okay, what do you think of the war in Afghanistan?" I said, "What do I think? You know, we see the news, innocent people are getting killed." And he started telling me, "What do you think of 9/11? I told him, "This is a wrong thing. What happened was wrong. You know, what do you want to say?"
Emwazi was then asked about his views on Jews and terrorism.
I told him, "This is how Islam is." I told him, we don't force anyone to come into religion. You know, everyone's got their own right. And I don't believe, and I told him everything that's been happening is extreme. Anything like bombs or whatever that have been happening are all from extremists. And then so after all of this, he come back and he looked at me and he said, I still believe that you're going to Somalia to train. I said, after what I just told you, after, you know, I told you that what's happening is extremism, this and that, and you're still suggesting that I'm an extremist.
And that's something Asim Qureshi of Cage finds hard to believe of Mohammed Emwazi.
Sorry, it's quite hard because, you know, he's such a... I'm really sorry. I didn't expect... he was such a beautiful young man.
And it was that same man that turned from a would-be rapper with hatred and fear in his lyrics to the brutal murderer we all now know to be Mohammed Emwazi. Well, despite the confirmation that Jihadi John is in fact Mohammed Emwazi by his very own family, the UK government refused to confirm his identity. Still, but two US government sources who say that remain anonymous say that Jihadi John is in fact Emwazi. Gary.
All right, you said yesterday that his family is under close observation. Where is his family just now in London, or are there other members of his families in other countries that are under observation?
No, his immediate family are all now in Kuwait, and they're under Kuwaiti surveillance, 24-hour surveillance. Just some back history about the family. They belong to a nomadic tribe called the Bibon, and they were not granted any form of citizenship by any of the Gulf countries, but they resided in Kuwait at the time that the first Gulf War happened. And Kuwaitis refused to give them citizenship because they felt they sympathised with Saddam Hussein. So after that, they then moved to London, and that's pretty much where Mohammed Emwazi grew up. And looking at the background of where Mohammed Emwazi could have been radicalised, Westminster University in West London is a hotbed of radicalisation. For example, when his identity was revealed, they invited a radical preacher to talk about Mohammed Emwazi, ISIS and jihad, so on and so forth. So there is some speculation that MI5, the British Secret Service, could have pushed him to become radical. And the interview we heard in the report there was an interview that Mohammed Emwazi gave to Qureshi of Cage about the MI5 interview. And they feel, Qureshi and friends and colleagues, that he was pushed by the Secret Service to become radicalised and Jihadi John now.
I'm going to wield, because I know that you know this subject very well, in this recent report about their activity on Twitter and on social media, that they were able to successfully recruit 150 Americans. Is there any progress in this online war to curb that?
As of recently, Twitter have closed down 2,000 accounts, which is rather significant. So anything that's related to ISIS, any word of ISIS, has now been closed down. So that's quite a radical move from previously when Twitter wouldn't interfere with those accounts. So those 2,000 accounts are kind of crucial because, as we know from the very beginning of this campaign, ISIS have been very instrumental in terms of recruiting those millennials, if you like, successfully, the 30,000 they claim to have and the 2,000 Westerners in their ranks.
Akhtar Khan, as always, thank you very much.